All right, welcome back. We are GAME1005. That's Game Production 1 in the fall 2022 semester at George Brown. Welcome to the first class at George Brown. And welcome to probably one of your first in-person anythings for a while, right? Some of you. So my name is Tom. I'll be your instructor this semester as we plan and build a project. That's me. So I've been doing teaching since 2011. This is not my first career. I've been in the software engineering industry for a while, primarily working with games and virtual reality, those kind of things, machine learning, artificial intelligence specifically, and a bunch of other stuff. I program in many languages: C++, C, Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, whatever you want, pretty much. I'm a mercenary. Whatever they give me, I program in, and what that's done for me is give me a kind of a perspective on how to program. And one of the things that you guys are here for is game programming. So this is not a game design course necessarily, although we will do game design. That's part of it. We have to plan games a little bit and all that kind of stuff as well. This is a game programming course where you learn C++ and how to program from the ground up. So if you don't have any programming experience, that's okay. I'm not sure if you guys have had a programming class today yet. Maybe you have, no? There you go, so some people have. And what that's going to mean is, for some of you, it's going to be a whole new world. Some of it's going to be stressful because you're worried. You don't know if you can do this, right? And for other people, you have this idea that you're great at playing games, right? And so you think you can make great games. You have great ideas, you want to make them. Sometimes what we need to do, and one of the things we're going to be doing in this course, is translating our ideas into something that's possibly makeable, if you will, okay? So that's what we're going to do. This course is game production, which means we're going to produce something. It actually is, which is interesting, a course that has 2 semesters. This is our Discord server. If you haven't had a chance to see this already on Blackboard, please join right now, okay? We'll be using the Discord server for a bunch of different things. You'll be part of the George Brown community, the game programming community. We have, a bunch of different kinds of courses that are linked to the Discord server. Alex Richard and I, he's the coordinator that you'll get to know over the next 3 years. We manage the Discord server together. It's something that we're students from all, some alumni as well, kind of get together and we do things like presentations for our courses. We communicate, make announcements, all kinds of stuff like that, and you can communicate with me directly via Discord. Okay, so please make sure you connect to Discord today. This is the first thing. Okay, the rules of conduct that says that's kind of listed up here is really all about. Please change your nickname so it's your first name and last name as it appears on Blackboard. Or if you prefer another first name, if you prefer to be identified in a different way, however you want to be identified is the way you can put yourself in the Discord server. Yeah.
I'm sorry. What's the Wi-Fi password?
The Wi-Fi password is. There was a paper that was floating around. There it is. There's that paper. You want to pass that forward? Is there another one over there? Okay. Yeah, it's a weird thing. We have, it's the George is what you're connected to. And it's a weird, non-memorable password, which is okay. Okay, so Discord, we're going to communicate on Discord as well. And let me talk more about the course. So really, what we want to try and do is talk about game production. How do we make games? What's the process? Okay, it's not. This course isn't necessarily a technical course. The second one of the series is. So Game Production 2, which is going to happen in the winter of 2022, as well as in the winter of 2023 and the summer of 2023. There's 2 different sections that are coming up. I'm still trapped in 2022. That course is going to be the realization of what you plan in this course. Okay, that's what that is for. Okay, so we plan this semester, and then what we're going to do is we're going to execute and deploy next semester. At least that's the plan. And I'll talk about why the plan can go awry in a bit. All right, so when it comes to what we're looking for, what we want you to do is produce a polished or somewhat polished 2D game in C++ using the SDL framework. We're going to recommend a small, very simplistic engine that we're going to give you in C++ that myself and Alex have written. It's the assignment framework that you're going to get to know that we're going to use in AI as an example that's going to happen in summer of 2023, as well as in winter of 2023. We're going to do AI. This is kind of a weird program in which you start with game production and you do your programming and fundamentals this semester and some other gen ed courses, and then in semester 2, we hit you with AI. Like that's how it goes. So you're kind of in the deep end, like right away. We kind of throw you in the deep end. We're like, swim, swim, fish, swim, right? And that's how it is. If you don't know how to program, you're going to know by the end of next semester. And what that does for you is it kind of gets you to understand, at least this semester or next semester, is this for you? Because I know some of you are going to have these questions in your mind. Can I do it? Am I good enough? Right? Is this for me? You know, is this the kind of thing I want to do? Is this what I thought it was supposed to be? You know, and those kind of questions. And that's okay. For young people like yourselves, part of what I tell all people is this is part of your discovery. Is it for me? Who am I? What am I doing? All that kind of stuff. And that's great. But what that means also is that the people you see here today may not be here next semester. Just letting you know, right? So part of that is when we start planning, our group size for the project that we're going to be building this semester is 10. It sounds pretty large, and it is. It won't be 10 next semester. I'm just telling you, it's just not going to happen. And it's not because I want to lose any of you. It's not at all that reason. It's because people will change their mind. People will, drift off, or not. Maybe it's not going to work for them. Maybe it's a new experience. There's lots of reasons why people are here, and this is just one of the realities. We're using this textbook as a guide, but we don't need you to buy anything. And we're going to start off by thinking about what we're doing today. So today, and again, I posted this up on Blackboard. We're going to be talking about game production. And then one of the activities that we're going to do is picking groups. How do we do that, right? And how do I compose a group? What is that made of? And all that good stuff. So again, the seating arrangements that you've done, I can see some people don't like to be with other people. They want to be around by themselves. They kind of sit over here. Like I said, guys, I'm not afraid to move around the room, right? Or people who are sitting in the back for whatever reason. It's probably not going to happen. I'm going to get you to sit with your team, and you're going to get to know those people over the next 3 years here at George Brown. That's what you're going to do. Whether it's in person or online, it doesn't matter. You need to make these connections. Sometimes you'll get into a group that won't work for you, and you'll move, right? You'll find out who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. That's part of what we're doing this semester too, right? So part of it is group forming that we're doing today. And every week we're going to have a different topic with regards to game production. We're going to talk about project management. This isn't a project management course, but we are going to handle Agile Scrum, okay, which is kind of pretty much the de facto standard nowadays with game dev. Whether you're a large organization, a AAA organization like my friends at Ubisoft, right, or whether you're a small indie studio, for the most part, people use Scrum or Agile, okay? And they have some kind of tools associated with it. Nowadays, it's all around tools, okay? So I don't expect you guys to use some kind of like Excel spreadsheet or something that you're gonna write by hand or sticky notes on a board. That's not what we're doing in this course. So one of the things we're gonna be doing in this course is we're gonna learn some tools, okay? We're gonna learn about some kind of version control. That's other things that we're gonna learn about. There will be some technical stuff I will introduce, although this is not a technical course. And here's where this gets a little sticky, and I gotta talk about it just like this. Who doesn't have a laptop? Right? Those people who don't have a laptop, it's gonna be challenging for me to do technical stuff in this room when we don't have computers, right? So if you can get yourself a laptop when I call for it, I'm not gonna do it right now. Today is not one of those days. But there will be times where I say, pull out your laptops. I want you guys to prototype in Unity, right? And we'll talk about how to do Unity together just as a prototyping tool, not to use as a development tool for next semester. You'll be coding with C++, native, all right, if that's what you're going to do it, not Unity. And we'll talk about what Unity is for those people who don't know, although I doubt that you don't know. So project management methods next week, then business, hiring and retaining talent, teams, effective communications. And then we have this midterm test. And the midterm test will cover, and I'll be honest with you, these kind of tests I hate, but it's one of those tests that it's going to be a true false multiple choice test that covers all the stuff that we've talked about in the first half of the course. It'll be open book, open internet, and you'll get 2 attempts for that one, okay? What we may do for the midterm test is run it completely online, which means that, I'll open it up in the beginning of the week, and you have until the end of the week to get it done. And for this particular week, we may not meet. I'm just going to let you know ahead of time, which means it'll give you more time for other courses that require you to actually physically be here and some other exams, physical exams that you're going to have to do. So you don't have to worry about mine. Okay, that's the way I'm going to approach it right now. Is it going to be like that at the end? We'll see. Okay, but that's the plan for the first half of the semester. The first half of the semester has a bunch of releases and things that you're going to be doing. Welcome for those people that are coming in. You can see that we have our team contract as well as our team introduction that you're going to do 2 weeks from now, week 3, right? We also have some topics that we're going to discuss that you guys are going to be presenting on, all right? So there's some group presentations as well, aside from the project. And this kind of satisfies some of the outcomes of the course, which are, I want to build transferable skills, business skills, soft skills for you, presentation skills. We're going to talk about presentations, how to build that, how to make a GDD, game design document, how to do a bunch of different things. And I'm going to need you to demonstrate this right in front of everybody. Okay, so that's kind of for some people, a little bit new, especially since we're live and in person. You can see now we're starting to fill up with the people that we should have had 10 minutes ago. So that's the first half. The second half of the semester is we're going to have a couple of topics, additional topics that we're going to handle, but you can see that we have more of our game concept happening. And by week 13, I want you to do your final pitch presentation and your final game proposal. And this game pitch and proposal is like after you've come together with your team and properly kind of planned what your game is going to look like for winter of 2023, summer of 2023, depending on which section you're having to be in. Disclaimer, this is one big, massive group that I've put you in. If you look up on Blackboard, you'll see that there's 95 students, right? Sections don't have 95 students, okay? So that means I've kind of smashed you together. So all the blocks are one. So disclaimer, you may not end up with the same people that you form groups with this semester, next semester. So what I mean by that is not because I don't want you to make this whole group forming thing and then you're going to build a project and go through that exercise and then see you later project and all the work we did. It's not because I want that to happen. It's just because there are blocks, kind of like scheduling blocks, right? So smart thing to do is connect with those people in the same block as you, people who are scheduled in the same classes and all those things. But if you don't want to, if you want to meet new people today, this semester, it's okay, all right? But know that next semester, you are not, potentially, you may not be in the same group. Just FYI, I'm telling you that first day, just so that you don't get disappointed next semester, okay? Because I know some people are like, Tom, we made this amazing, game concept, and now we're all broken up into 3 different sections, and we can't continue. What do? There's nothing wrong with taking that game concept and trying to make the same game 3 times. Your game will be different every single time across 3 different groups. It doesn't matter, right? Whatever that winning concept is going to be. So this is kind of our high-level, topic outline that we're going to follow. And most of the stuff we're going to be doing this semester is, like I said, group work. However, there are individual components. Let me talk about those. The 2 individual components are the weekly reports, which are going to be happening every single week starting next week. Right, we're going to be doing weekly reports, and that's going to count towards your participation. So participation in this course is worth 20% of your final grade. Participation means you're going to fill out a weekly report that says, here's what I did with my team, as an example, right? If you don't fill out your weekly report, you immediately lose 2% of your final grade. It's up to you, right? This is the way it is. So it's like a time card. Think of it like that. You come in, you talk about what you did. Don't say stuff like, I did nothing. If you did nothing, 0, if that's what you did, right? So my expectations are, when you get together with your team and you do some planning, there is going to be some time outside of this classroom that you get together with your team, either via Discord or live. It's up to you and your team. All right, so that's one of the activities. The other one is peer reviews. So one of the things we always have problems with making teams, and you may have noticed this in prior experiences when you've worked together with teammates, some people don't like to do any work, and they like to skate. Not in this course, they're not. If they skate, and if you report it, they will get 0, all right? So it's kind of the honor system. I don't want you guys to snitch, but can you imagine when you have expectations for somebody and they just don't deliver? You've asked them to do something, they promise to deliver, and they just don't show up. They ghost you on Discord, they don't show up at meetings, right? They leave early, they don't know, they said they're available, but they're not available, and a bunch of other stuff. This is the same kind of thing where we're going to talk about this again, but that's just a way of us saying, hey, this is not cool, okay? And when it's not cool, it means that their marks for each of the releases that I have here are basically going to tank, okay? So the idea is not to punish people. The idea is to try and bring people together and encourage everyone to work together. And there's going to be some kind of measuring process individually for what you guys are doing. I don't know, come in. You're on the wrong side, come on the other side. All right, so yeah, so this is the, kind of stuff that we're doing. The game concept, we're starting off with the team contract. The team contract is not a legal contract, but you're going to see it today, we're going to talk about it. That is your first release. It's due next week. Okay, that's how fast we're going to roll. And what that means is you're going to kind of, on your team contract, list the members of your team and what they will be doing. Okay, so what about if you sign up and you kind of put your hand up for a lead software engineering role, but there's no software engineering this semester? Does that mean you're not going to do anything? Remember that there are going to be additional technical things I'm going to give you guys to do. And there are going to be things like, what if you're a game designer? You sign up as a lead game designer. This is a programming course. How can that happen? Someone's got to design the game. There's got to be some kind of concept, some kind of vision, right? So that person or people are going to get together and they're going to design the game, the GDD, the game design document. So that's what's happening in the team contract. You kind of say, this is who my team is, this is what we're doing. So that means we're 2.5% of your final grade as a group. And then the team intro presentation is happening not next week, but the week after. So not week 2, but week 3, you get together and you say, here's who we are, this is the idea that we have, very high level, and you introduce yourselves to the class. 5 minutes, in and out. You come up, set up, and take off. Okay, that's what it's going to be like. You're also going to record a small video for me, way ahead of time to practice. Oh yeah, we're going to be doing videos this semester too. But not because I want to, I don't know who you are, but only because it's good to record what you're doing so you get better and better at it. So that's what's happening with the team intro presentation. Notice the game concept is worth 5%, the pitch presentation is worth 10, the final game proposal is worth 20, and then there'll be other topics that I'm going to give you to do, kind of presentation topics, plus the midterm test on theory. That's where we get your 100%. You guys there's a lot of you, and there's one of me. So I mentioned earlier for the people that were here on time, that, and a little bit early, I'm sorry to say it that way, but that's the way it is. That's what we roll here at Game Production 1. I want you to produce name cards for next week, okay? Which means you're going to get together, you can make a little tent card for yourself. Please don't spend a lot of money if you're going to spend any money. You can be creative. I'm okay with you being creative. But it should include your first name and it should be legible. So if there's some kind of wacky creative art that you're going to put together for your first name and I can't read it, it doesn't make any sense. Make sure it's legible, all right? So I'm asking you to do that so we can all get to know each other, A, and B, I can identify you. I want to get to know each and every one of you, and so does Alex, right? And the only way that can happen is if we interact and if I know your name. Okay, so you can choose whatever name that you want that identifies you, even if it's not exactly the way it is on George Brown, okay? And you can make those changes too. I encourage you to do those things as soon as possible. Okay, so that's one piece of homework, please don't forget. And project managers, you don't know who you are yet, but project managers, I encourage you to kind of revise this or revisit this with your team, okay, when that time comes. All right, so this is what I want to do today. I want to start off with the final project overview. What is it that we're building? How are we going to do this? And I'm going to hook back on this one. I'm going to start off talking about it, then we're going to go back and talk about it again. And the reason for this is because at the beginning it's like, wow, I feel a little bit overwhelmed. There's all this stuff that I got to do, and I don't know what to do. I'm also going to be talking about specialty roles, the types of roles that are in every game team, if you will, or in a small indie studio, you could have roles like this. We're going to talk about the specialty roles. Then we're going to do a small activity offline. So for the people that are watching on YouTube right now, we're going to be doing an activity offline, which means in person, right? Where I'm going to not record that activity because it doesn't make any sense, right? And during that activity, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be forming you up. You're not going to sit wherever you're sitting right now, peoples of this beautiful class, is not where you're going to be sitting in the future. Just letting you know, all right? Chances are there'll be some kind of shifting. Let's just put it that way, all right, by the end of today. And then in the future, as we move towards future lessons, you'll be sitting in that configuration for the remainder of the semester, all right? So you're not going to sit alone. If you come in late, you're going to come in right into your group. That's where you're going to do it, okay? And the expectation is that you're here each and every week, okay? That's the expectation. So it's not an online class, all right? This course itself is not an online class. Then we're going to be talking about game production. There's about 60 slides. I am not going to read the slides. I'm going to go through it, talk about it. The slides are there for you because that is part of your reading and homework and everything else as I produce it. And then by midterm, you can look at the slides and answer the questions. The true-false multiple choice test, which is super easy, is based on my PowerPoint documents. Okay, so please make sure you have those and go through it. So before we begin, any questions? Any concerns? You guys are all great. Yes?
So you said all the PowerPoints are using on Blackboard, right?
Yes. All the PowerPoints, and I'll record every single class, at least for the PowerPoint portion. There'll be some parts of the class, it just doesn't make sense to record, like the little group activity we're going to do today. It doesn't make sense when I run you guys around the room that I'm recording it somehow, unless I had like cameras all over the place, which we don't. Exactly, right? And there are some places that use HiFlex. That's something that some institutions are using where they have multiple cameras and they have multiple microphones and stuff. So if you actually talk, then people online will pick it up, and some people are going to be doing it asynchronously and synchronously. We're not doing that here. This is supposed to be an in-person course, and I'm just recording everything for you so that you have a reference so you can go back. And worst case scenario, you can watch the video and you can see what's happening. And occasionally I'll run into this. This is actually recording the image of where, in this occasion, you'll see me here if you're watching the video. And I'll be actually on YouTube. YouTube is, we're live on YouTube. So there is a chance, I gotta say that while I'm recording, and I'll tell you when, like right now, if you ask questions, you may be heard, but chances are not. Because I have a cardioid mic that's over here, and chances are it's not going to pick you up if you're concerned about that. All right, so any other questions before I move on? No? All right, so let's talk about that final project. And there is a document online that I want to show you guys, right? So, and I don't expect you to read this in any way. But more or less, what you're going to be building is a somewhat original 2D game. In past iterations of this course, you were asked to rebuild, I don't know, Pac-Man or something else like that. I'm going to give you more leeway. What I want you guys to do is think about the type of game that you can possibly build next semester, realistically, okay? I don't want you to dream about stuff that is impossible for you to build. Example, no role-playing games, okay? That's impossible for you to build next semester. This semester and next semester. It's not going to happen. All right, so please don't try and plan that. Also, please don't try and plan, certain simple type of games like, I don't know, a race game, where it just goes around the track over and over again. It's got to be a little bit more meat to it than that, all right? So, and I'll talk about the type of games that I will allow very shortly. But for the most part, you're going to be building this 2D game, and you're going to be doing it with C++ and the SDL framework. Okay? So what you're going to be doing this semester is you're going to be planning that game. That's the project. And so the planning portion of the project, it's also not just planning, but also understanding what you're building. You're going to be doing prototyping. You're going to be building some stuff out with Unity, the Unity game engine, which is a commercial game engine that is used for many, many games. Some games that it's been used for over the last little while that are fairly popular on Steam are Valheim, Core Keeper, and many, many others. Okay, those are just games over the last little while. Small, 5-people teams that have made millions of dollars over the last little while, okay, with those games. No joke. So that's what we're going to be using, and I'm going to be using it mostly as a prototyping tool, not necessarily as a game tool that you're going to be using for the next semester. Next semester is all C++. I want to keep repeating that because if I don't, people get confused and like, but you said we're going to use Unity. No, we're using it for prototyping, which means it's just for us to position stuff on the screen so we can see something this semester, right? Because it's not a technical course, right? And also, some of you don't know how to program yet. So it's kind of weird. They kind of ask you guys to put together a game when you don't know how to do that, right? Unity allows us to do that. There are going to be some specialty roles that I'm going to be asking for, and I'm going to be talking about those now. But I'm going to switch to the PowerPoint to do that. So let's talk about the specialty roles. So the first specialty role, and this is how we're going to set up our teams today, right, is lead software engineer. Okay, wait, I said some of you don't know how to program. But there are people here in this room with prior programming experience. Yes? If you have prior programming experience, put your hand up. Okay, that's great. You guys, people that have put your hand up, are candidates for lead software engineering. You've done some programming before, okay? And maybe you know how to set things up, or you think about how to format your programming and kind of lead the pack in terms of how you want them to program just like you, okay? Now some of you might have also some very small experience and you need more, or you don't feel confident doing that. Lead software engineer is a lead role. So what if you're a programmer, but you really don't want to lead anybody? And a lot of us are like that. We don't want to lead anybody, right? Well, someone's got to step up and be this thing. And one thing to note is, let's talk about the things that you're going to do as a lead software engineer. You must communicate with the game designer, that's another role, to fully implement the ideas of the game, maintain a logical coding standard, so it's got to be coded in a certain way, and so on. You're responsible for creating and management of the source control repository, so GitHub or Perforce. This semester we're using GitHub. Next semester, if you're going to connect with someone else, there might be other professors that take on the second course, they might be using Perforce, which is actually a standard in the game dev industry. And it does things a little differently than GitHub. Again, one thing to note is that there can only be one lead software engineer. You can have many people who code, but only one person that is going to be the lead. And the other thing that I also want to say is that this role cannot be combined with other roles. So you can't be the lead software engineer and the game designer and the game producer and blah, blah, blah. Why? Anyone have an idea why? Why can't you be all that stuff? Come on, guys, I'm going to engage you, and I'm going to go to the back. Yeah.
Because it's such a big responsibility already.
It's a big responsibility. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, what's the other reason?
I mean, you take all the ideas and you don't have to ask anyone else.
You don't need anyone else. Right? It's my game. If I'm the lead software engineer, the lead game designer, the lead this and the lead that, the producer, what do I need you guys for? Right? That's not the exercise. I don't want one person to hold that role. And there are some strong personalities in this room right now. I guarantee it. Some people who are very strong and want to take the lead in all things. That is not the exercise. You need to relinquish control to some other people this semester. Okay, so that's what's happening. And lead software engineer is one leadership role in the group. The other one is not a leadership role, but it is important, is user interface and tools programmer. So a UI and tools programmer is important because tools, sometimes we need tools for testing. Sometimes we need tools for creating particle effects. Sometimes we need tools to load tile maps, that kind of stuff. Or whatever it's going to be. And the UI and tools programmer kind of works with the lead software engineer to do that. And of course, in line with the stuff they need. They also do some QA testing and a bunch of other stuff. User interfaces are really tough to wire up sometimes. So you can create them. You can have a designer create the user interface, but then we have to wire it up with code, the user interface, and the tools programmer does that. Okay? So again, not a leadership role, but it might be something you're interested in doing. Next, gameplay programmer. A lot of you want to do this, gameplay programmer. It's super damn hard. Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now. Why? We need to code. And some of you don't know how to do that yet. And we're dealing with things that you don't know how to do yet, like physics and AI for the most part. How do you become a gameplay programmer if you don't know how to do AI or physics, right? It's hard to do. But we need someone like this, someone who's interested in learning. Remember, even if you don't know how to do some of these roles, if you're interested in learning the role, you can take it on, okay? That's something that you can do. When I say you can take it on, I mean, when it's time for group forming, you can put your hand up and say, I want to be a UI programmer, I want to be a gameplay programmer, I want to be whatever, fill in the blank. Okay? Next, generalist programmers. So generalist programmers actually make up the majority of the workforce at most studios. They do anything that they're told to do. And from a composition perspective, although I've broken it up and said something like a gameplay programmer and a UI programmer, you and your team may elect to have your leads and a bunch of generalists. That might be some way you want to compose your team. It's up to you how you want to set that up. Generalists do whatever tasks they're told. They might do some AI, they might do some physics, they might do some engine programming, they might do a lot of different things. And they'll take on whatever task is available that they're going to pull down and do so that they can complete the stuff they want to do by the end. And the reason why I'm saying generalist programmer is a good role is it's very common in the industry when you start off. Okay. Here's a big one. This is probably the big one. Game producer. This course is called game production. So this is like the people that are going to be my friends. The people that I'm going to be working with very closely. I'm going to call you guys out. I'm going to say, game producers, come up to the front. That kind of stuff. And we're going to have conversations about you and your team. Okay? You're not the leader necessarily, but you are pushing and guiding the team, to do what they have to do. Notice that this PowerPoint slide is full. And let me talk about why, right? It's a thankless job. Number one. Let's talk about the negatives for a second. You don't have any teeth in this role. And I mean, you can't fire anybody. Okay? You can't fire anybody. But you have the responsibility to do you're the designated submitter, right, when it comes to Blackboard. If there's any kind of group project or group anything that you need to submit, it's you. Presentations are you. Worst case scenario, if no one wants to present, it's you that I'm going to be talking to. You're going to organize the meetings. You're going to organize the software that we're going to use for project management. It's on you. It's definitely the main role when it comes to getting things done. But it's not a primary role next to lead software engineer. Lead software engineer is they get kind of like 2 votes when it comes to how the software is going to be written, right? Whereas game producer gets 2 votes when it comes to how, when you're going to be, and all that kind of stuff. The game producer is responsible to bring people together, right? To manage conflicts, between team members, and to report to me when people aren't working out. It's a lot of stuff. And usually there's special people that I usually see for the 3 years that they're here at George Brown, people who kind of step up. And I'm not saying that because I want to encourage you guys, and I'm afraid it's not going to be anybody. I will assign them if you don't assign them yourselves. I would prefer not to. I prefer you step up, usually leaders do, and you take on this role. Okay? So that's game producer. It's a main role and it cannot be combined with other roles. Technical artists. Yes? Fixed? No. No, I don't think it's, I mean, if, let's suppose that you step up as a lead software engineer or something else, but then in your group, there's really no strong game producer. And you know, in your mind, you're thinking, we need to organize, and I'm just the best person at that. You can negotiate with your team to switch roles. I'm okay with that. But it's not something that I want to be done regularly. It's like, once you kind of, you're there, that's your role for the most of the semester, the majority of the semester. Technical art, so we're not, artists here, and this is not a design program, but some people have technical art skill. Who's got art capabilities in this room? Those people who have art capabilities are gold, okay? Let me tell you why. Because they're gonna make your game look awesome, okay? Why? Because they probably have a great aesthetic, look and feel in terms of the way they think about the game itself, right? They're gonna work closely with the game designer, to make the game look awesome, okay? Now, in terms of assets, I don't expect any technical artist, even though I call them technical artists, to create assets. You can acquire assets, right? For example, things like from Open Game Art or other places. I'm okay with that. The reason why you're labeled as a technical artist is you're responsible to get it, the art, or modify it, or make it new, if you have time. Only if you have time, and it doesn't interfere with your programming tasks. Okay, that's technical artist. Audio engineer is the same thing. Who is really great at sound, audio, right? Who's interested in being an audio engineer? There are a couple people. And if you are, that's awesome, because usually there's, I'm sorry to say this, one sound guy in every team, right? And, or one sound person. And that person is the person that is going to deal with impulse sounds. When a character is walking across the screen, you can hear footsteps, let's say. Or there might be music that they're going to put together, or whatever. It could also be menu sounds. When you hover your mouse over a particular menu item, it's going to make a little click noise or whatever. There's a lot of little sounds that you need to collect over the course of the project, right? So that it looks and feels polished. Okay, so that's one thing that we have here as well. What if there's no one like this in your team? There's no technical artist and there's no audio engineer. What you do, you can still collect assets. You can still get them from, even with generalists, you can go out and do that. You don't have to have dedicated people, but there may be a interest in, from some of your team members, and that's why we put it up here. Game designer. Okay, another super important role. So we've talked about so far the big three, all right? Lead software engineer, game producer, and now game designer. Again, game designer is the visionary. They come up with the game concept, the narrative, the backstory, all that kind of stuff. What is your game about? Okay? And they think about things like mechanics. How does the game work? Game mechanics not just for the player, but for the game world, for many other things. What's your skill tree look like, if you have one? How do pickups work? What is your loadout? What are your loadouts for your characters? And so on. That's the realm of the game designer. And they look at games that are out there that they love, and they want to incorporate some kind of really cool concepts from other games into their game. Okay? Game designer, again, cannot be combined with any other role. It is a unique role. It's required. So the three roles that are absolutely required for every team are game designer, game producer, lead software engineer. Okay? You must have them, one of those three, or all those three, in each of your teams. Okay? Also, one thing to note, and I've had this question before, is can I share these roles with somebody else? Huh? What do you mean? Share, Tom. I want to share these roles. Share these roles with somebody else. Like, you mean be a part-time game producer? No. Yeah, there's no part-time game producer that I know of, right? There are associate game producers, but usually that's in a very large organization, right? And what about if you want to be an associate game designer? I want to be the game designer and then I want to have a helper. No, it's you. It's one person. The rest are programmers. Okay, that's what they're doing. Now, here's something. In this semester, again, we're not doing many technical things. So the game designer is going to be super important this semester because, well, they're going to be designing the game and helping design the game, the G&D, but they're not going to do it alone. All right, they're going to do it with you guys. They're going to do it in a group setting. Okay, that means that they're going to get input from you on what kind of game you want to make. and you're going to spitball and do some brainstorming and all that kind of stuff during team meetings. You're going to look at influences. What games you really love to play? 2D games, platformers, which is one type of game, a top-down kind of shooter, which is another type of game you can make, as well as, and the third type would be something like a twin-stick shooter, right? Like a tank shooter game, something like that. Those are the three types of games you're going to make, and the game designer and you as a team are going to get together to decide that. Okay, so mechanics, dynamics are the two kind of spheres that they're going to be dealing with. The aesthetics are the technical arts. So mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics, that's your kind of your DNA of the game, right? Or MDA in this case. And you're going to have to define that for me by the time we do your game pitch. Okay? Game design cannot be combined with any other role. And that's really it. Those are the specialty roles. There are others in the game industry. They split some of this stuff even much finer than that. For example, we haven't covered anything like 3D artists, some kind of rigging person, a person that does concept art. We haven't talked about any of those things, especially on the art side, because we're not artists for the most part, right? We're programmers. And there's other kinds of programming that you can do too, very specialized programming, like AI programming specifically, or physics programming specifically, or engine programming, graphics programmer, and so on. We're not going to split it that fine because we don't have a lot of programming tasks this semester. Okay? Questions around the specialty roles that you'll be using today to form up your teams? Yes?
Just to temper expectations, just in case there's any role competition conflict or whatever.
Wait, do you think there's not going to be role competition?
No, there is. That's all I'm asking what is specifically the most sought after role.
I don't think there's any role that's specifically sought after. A lot of people are afraid to take on roles more than anything else. Okay, I'm just be honest, right? So there's not, usually I get take in things like, well, I want to be lead software engineer. There's not a lot of lead software engineering jobs this semester. That's why they take it, right? But the game designer and the game producer are the ones people run away from. It's a lot of work, right? So generally, it's generalist programmers. That's where I get a lot. I'm a generalist programmer. Okay, what does that mean? Right? It means that you do whatever is required this semester. That's what it means. So again, I need the top three. Those three, big three is what I call them, right? And everything else can be generalist, or you can be more specific in what your roles are. These things is what you're going to put together inside of your team contract, which is due next week on Friday. Okay? So let's go back to that. So your final project, I talked about the specialty roles. Those are the specialty roles that you can use. And let's talk about the three types of games that you can make. Okay, so these are the games, and only these three types of games that you can make for next semester and plan this semester. Now, there's a lot of latitude here. When I say only three types of games, we can imagine a lot of things that you can do with these things, this definition. Example, top-down, side-scrolling, bullet hell shooter. You can do a lot of things with those things. Again, set up to 10 members, no less than 6. Okay, I'm not going to accept any less than 6 members of your team. So 6 to 10 members. I'd like to go as high as 10 as close to 10 as possible. Right? You're going to have the start scene, level 1, level 2, level 3, and an end scene. That's what you're going to have. You're going to have multiple bullet types, an enemy AI with line of sight, steering behaviors, and evasion. If you don't know what those things are, you're going to learn about them next semester. Multi-stage boss on level 3. And a distinct setting progression. Each level must have a different goal, and it can't just be a different screen. Like, oh, it's the blue level, it's the red level, it's the no. All right? It's got to have, there's a reason for the levels. What are the levels for? Typically, what we do with all the levels is tutorialization in the first level. We want to show the players how to play the game and invite them into your game, right? Marketing. Let's think about marketing for a second. You want them to play your game, right? You want to onboard them. Okay? And the way you onboard them is show them how to play. Usually it's one level that's low stress, safe to play, and all that kind of stuff. And you learn about how to move, how to fight, how to collect items, how to do whatever you're going to do. Okay? Level 1. So that's level 1, level 2, level 3. That's your top-down, side-scrolling bullet hell shooter. Your side-scrolling bullet hell shooter does not include platforming. So there's no jumping necessarily. It's just some kind of side-scrolling. You can think of other games like that, like some kind of ship that moves around space shooter, could be a game that you make or whatever. But again, think about trying to make it as interesting as possible. It seems like it's really small, this game, okay? But truly, you can polish it to hell. And no pun intended with the bullet hell. All right, let's move on. The next one is your top-down tank game, twin stick shooter. Very popular choice. Don't think about it as a tank. A character can be a tank. Think about it as a loadout. So a top-down, some kind of loadout, twin stick shooter. We're using one stick to aim and another one to move, or whatever. Multiple tank classes or loadouts is what I want you to think about. Two-player local multiplayer if you can, which means split screen if you want to try and do that. Game controller input is required. A distinct terrain with destructible objects. We want to make destructible environment. Bombs, power-ups, and abilities, buffs, whatever you want to call them. And NAI for player versus environment mode, including line of sight, steering behaviors, and defensive tactics. Okay, that's what to do for this one. A little bit more challenging. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, but the level of challenge just rose. Right? So the first one was like, oh, hell shooter, no problem. And now I'm asking for more stuff. So why would I do this? Who would take on more work? People who are interested. But if you don't want to make a bullet hell shooter, you want to make something more complex, you want to challenge yourself, or you think you're really good, take on this one. This is a really good one. Notice that the platformer is the last one, and it's the hardest one. Why? It's the hardest one to get right. Right? To get your platforming working properly with physics and everything else, good gameplay, it takes a lot of effort. So, again, level 1, level 2, level 3, it's all the same. Physics must be included. You have to make them. We're not going to train you how to do that. Movement with jumping and falling. Enemies, traps, obstacles, unique to each level. At least one unique mechanic. Some people include things like a grappling hook or some of those ninja games that we see out there that, you can, some kind of darkness or light mechanic. Those kind of things. You can think about other games like that. It's up to you, but it's got to be interesting. Power-ups, NAI with line of sight, wandering, and attack patterns. And a tile map set is recommended. So a tile map loader is something that you have to do. All right, so that's all the stuff that you're planning for the semester. Remember, there's no coding for the semester. There's passive gathering. There's game design. You want to look at your influences, look at the industry, what's up there, right? And if you're actually going to make this game and produce it on Steam today, right, what elements would you want for your game? That's what I want you guys to think about this semester, okay? And that's the project for this semester. Questions around that? There's 3 types of games, but there's lots of latitude, lots of things you can do, right? And the first deliverable, which is something I got to talk about as well, is your team contract. Team contract is where 2.5% of your final grade. Again, groups between 6 to 10 members. Right now on Blackboard, there are groups that I've created, self-enroll groups that you can go onto right now. A warning, if you join a group right now and you decide to join and you want to leave, you can't leave. You can join, the only person that can make you leave is me. All right, so please wait. Don't do that yet. There cannot be any teams of 1. All right, so if you're like, I work alone. Not today, all right? Not in this group. There's no possibility you can work alone. There's no possibility you can do this project alone. If that's the kind of thing you're doing, you're in the wrong course and you will fail. I'll give you that 100% guarantee. Not because I want to, but because that's not the exercise. The exercise this semester is group work, how to work with other people, how to produce a game, navigating the conflicts that you're talking about before, doing all those kinds of things, because that's what we need to learn, more than just programming. How do I work in a version control environment with multiple people? How do I do that? Right? How do I pass my code from one person to the other person? I want you guys to figure that out, not how to work on your own. Okay? So that's kind of a little different because we've been working on our own remote for 3 years, right, for the most part. All right, so that is what's coming up next week, and I'll talk more about that. One other thing that's due with the contract, which I'm going to show you in a second, is your team logo. So what if you don't have any artistic people on your team? I mean, there's a lot of simple things to do. Please don't rip off somebody else's logo and turn it black, okay? Example, like, I don't know, you get the Microsoft logo or the McDonald's logo and turn it black, right? That's my logo. No, all right? I don't want to see that. I want you to do your own logo, something that's representative of your team. Make your own team name. I don't know, George Brown, Fantastics Interactive, or whatever you're going to do. It's always interactive something these days, right? And so pick your team and make sure that your logo matches with your team. It's also a requirement for next week. It's due, okay? Those two things. Questions before I go into the details of your contract? We're kind of talking about this all up front right now, and then we'll do the actual activity. We'll take a small break, and then when we come back, I'm going to form you into teams. Okay? Any questions? Any concerns? Okay, let's move on. So that is your project, and what I want to talk about is the individual components. So this is what your weekly report would look like. So your weekly reports, right? You're going to do these. These are things to fill in on your own, right? Starting next week. Why starting next week? Because by next week, my expectation is you have formed up in a team, met once at least, signed the document, the contract, right? And that's what should go here. Met with my team, sign the contract. It's very simple, right? But what if you don't fill this out? What if you forget? Zero. Okay, there's no leeway, there's no extra days that you have. You can't submit it after the fact or whatever. It's your time card. You don't submit this, 0 out of 2% for your final grade. Please don't do that. These are stupid, easy to do things, all right? And it's a way of you justifying your existence. What am I doing in my team, all right? Seriously, right? So if you don't do this, I don't know what else you can do. How can I trust you doing a project with me if you can't even fill in a simple weekly report? Don't forget it. Make it a priority. So with 2% of your final grade, I'm paying you for it, okay? So get her done. That's this part. Okay, it's very simple. There's two parts to it. Did I attend the team meeting? Yes. What did we do? And if I didn't, why didn't I attend? Okay, was I sick? Something happened? Whatever, it's possible. And then if I was assigned work, did I complete my work? Yes or no? If I didn't, why? And how many hours did I spend doing that work? If you met with the team and it was a 1 hour meeting, you put in 1 hour, right? But what if you developed a prototype or something and it took you 10 hours? 10 hours, right? And get used to doing this, guys, because next semester when we get together, you'll do it again, all right? And you're going to see this again in the second semester, the third semester, or some form of it, all throughout the time in George Brown. All right, that's your weekly report. And that's due every week, starting next week. The other one that you're going to see is your peer evaluation form. And your peer evaluation form is similar, but you're going to do something like this. You're going to say, here are my group members. Please don't put something like this. Here's me, and then line 2 is everyone else. I've seen that, by the way, right? And it's like, me, I'm like 5 out of 5. Everyone else, 0. Right? I know, it happens, right? People do that. Like, what the hell? Who are your team members? No, I think you're 0, right? If you're like that. There is no, one-person team here, right? So I'm just saying, right? Like, don't do that. And look, this is an exercise. There's only 6 lines here. You're going to need to add a few more, 4 more, in fact, right? And I want you guys to put in each person's name on your team. You need to know what those people's names are. Oh, that guy that showed up, no. Put their team, their names, and maybe what they did, like what their role is, lead software engineer. You can make a little acronym, LSC, if that makes sense for you. Or, GP for the game producer. But you score them at a 5. 5 is they do everything they're supposed to do. 4 is they kind of do most things. 3s are the lowest I want to see. And if I see 0, 1s, or 2s, what the heck are those people doing right this semester, right? If I see 0s, 1s, and 2s for you, okay, you're going to get lower marks when it comes to each of your releases. Every single time. And you will fail. It's going to happen, right? It's not because I want you to, it's because you're just not doing anything. This isn't a popularity contest. And I want you guys to be kind, truly, all right? I want you to take this back. Everyone has their issues. Every single person here has family problems, work issues, mental health problems of some kind, or whatever. Every single person. There's not one of you that doesn't have some kind of need, all right? Be kind when you do this kind of stuff, right? You understand it to a point, okay? If the person is never around, it doesn't matter how kind you are. If they're not doing anything, they haven't done anything. Mark them as a 0. And if I see 0s, have a conversation with this person and talk to them. right? And we're going to talk about that in a second. By the way, there's also room here for some comments. Like, for example, why isn't the rating equally distributed? What happened in the team? What's the dynamic like? Right? It's a chance for you to talk about your team. This is an individual exercise. Don't get together with your teammates and say, so how are you scoring me? Right? Doesn't make sense, right? Why would you want that? Be honest, right? That's the best thing, because this happens all the time. It's called a 360 review in real life, right? Where people report on other people, right? And it's not because we want to snitch, it's because we want to have really strong, high resource teams. That's what I want you guys to develop this semester, a high resource team. Not people who are going to squirrel away, disappear, and not participate, come in late, and all that kind of stuff. Lateness is not tolerated, guys, for whatever reason. You know the time you're supposed to be here in class. I expect you to be here 2 o'clock from now on every single time. Like a job. If you're not here, why? You're paying for this, right? So do yourself a favor and be here on time. All right, so that is your peer evaluation form. Let's talk about the contract a little bit. And I want to bring up that contract because I want to talk about it, and this is what it's going to look like. So you have a bunch of names here, and there's some highlights, right? Your team name, anything that's highlighted, change it, please. Like, fill in the names and the student numbers. Don't leave team name as your team name. That would be very bad. I won't accept that, right? You'll lose marks for your contract, right? Put all the people's names in here, their student numbers, and at least an email, if not a Discord handle, and other ways of getting a hold of them. You can use this contract document, worst case scenario, to connect with people in your team. Look at the contract document as a way of connecting with them. All right, that's the team members. What are the team expectations? We understand, it's almost like language that's in your contract. It's not an official legal document, please don't take it as such. But it is a pledge, right, that we're making together, that we're going to do something together. That's what it is, all right? And we understand that throughout the course, all team members are designated as developers. By the end of the winter semester, that's next semester, we will have a functioning and somewhat polished game prototype using the SDL framework and the C++ programming language. Notice that there is no Unity, C#, JavaScript, or other kind of language. You can't use those languages. Only this. All team members must be able to communicate decisions, techniques, and processes related to all aspects of the development process for our game, which means just because you're not a game producer, you should be able to talk to it. What did we use? What tools did we use? Did we use Jira? Did we use Trello? What tools did we use? If you're not a game programmer, do you understand how the game is put together? Do you understand? Are you involved? That's what this is, right? Below, we have outlined specific expectations for all team members to adhere to, as well as the consequences for failing to meet each expectation. Here's the first one, meeting times. I expect you to meet at least once or twice every week outside of this class, every single week, right, to build the plan for your game. This is going to be the same for next semester. So try and figure out a time that works for everybody, okay? That can be a challenge because people have work schedules, people have travel schedules, people live outside of Toronto, people do whatever. Who lives outside of Toronto? Really outside? Yeah, you're like me. I live in Virginia, all right? I live at Lake Simcoe. That's where I live, okay? So if I can make it to work, right, which is over an hour and a half, by driving, hopefully you guys can make it too, all right? So it's going to happen. The other thing is other details. And this is an example expectation. You can massage this and make your own expectations of things that you expect from every team member. All right? So anything that's highlighted in here is just an example of, hey, if I don't know how to do something, what do I do? You can ask the professor, you can approach other game students, you can do whatever, right? Just examples. But there are some things that are going to be required. Here's the required stuff that you can't change. In the event, here we go, legalese. In the event that team requirements are not met, some of the repercussions may include having a team member flagged as unproductive, right? Any member who is flagged will receive a grade of 0 on all following review sessions and releases until the flag is removed. That's pretty serious. That means like that person's gone MIA, right? They're gone. We don't know where they are, they don't communicate with us, and we've reached out to them. Don't come to me to solve that problem, guys. I want you guys to solve that problem. Go to them and say, I'm just gonna use the name, hey Tom, that's me. You just aren't meeting requirements. You said you're gonna do what you're gonna do, and you haven't shown up. We've tried to communicate with you, we've reached out to you with email, we've reached out to you this and that. We've gone to the professor and let them know we're gonna flag you as non-productive, just FYI. I mean, if you have to go there. But you can't just sit there and say, please remove that person from my team, Tom. No. Talk to them. Remember? Be kind. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what they're suffering with. You don't know what's happening, right? Anything can happen. And by the way, this happens in real life. You don't know what's happening with that person. So talk to them. Should a team member break one of the above expectations to the point where they should be flagged, outlining your expectations, please see your professor with evidence of this issue, including which part of the contract has been broken and any corrective steps taken prior to flagging. And the member will be flagged and the conditions to remove the flag will be reported. At that point, it is up to the flagged member to meet those conditions and provide evidence to have their flag removed. In other words, you can rehabilitate someone, okay? Like if someone decides to go MIA because they have a family issue for 2 weeks, and I'm not gonna say this is normal, but if it happens, and they come back and suddenly they're producing everything you wanted them to do and more, awesome. Typically, it doesn't happen that way, all right? Typically when they're gone, right? But we wanna make sure that this happens. And this is where I'm telling you that we're gonna lose some people over the course of this semester and next semester. It's gonna happen, okay? Natural attrition. Amendments, if you want to change anything in the contract, by the way, things that are not included in the contract are IP, intellectual property. What happens if you make a really cool game this semester, next semester, and you want to put it on Steam? Like, it can happen, right? It has happened, right? Where people have kind of formed up and wanted to make a team, or a group, and a game, and then they've taken it forward, or one team member wants to continue with the concept, and the other people don't. What do you do with that? Did the team members get some kind of cut? You know, what happens? Let it in, if you're interested. If you don't care about that, leave it as is. Typically what happens in this kind of scenario is everyone gets an equal share regardless. Okay? That's what happens, if it ever goes that way. And mostly it doesn't. Okay? So if you want to make amendments, if people leave the team, if people join the team, your amendments must be made. And then here's the agreement where you say something like, we, the team of, please replace the team name with your own team name, right, have come up with these expectations together and agreed to adhere to them throughout the academic term. We understand our own rules and the consequences for breaking them. We also agree that we have read and understood the material in the course syllabus. Please do that, okay? Which is our outline. And then all of you will sign. Now, some people have asked, do I have to sign like officially with my signature? You know, what do I do? Do I take a picture of my signature? I leave that to you. I mean, if you do some kind of cursive script, I'm okay with that too. Okay? We don't have to make it so formal. But the idea here is that it's a pledge. Every one of you have looked at it and you've agreed. And if you break it, that's on you. Okay. One more thing to say. People complain a lot about different things. And you guys are young people, and I'm going to kind of impart the first thing to you, which is this. And please don't take me wrong. Everything that happens to you happens because of you. Okay? Number one. And the reason why you're here is because of you. Right? You wanted to be here, or you got here in some way, it's because of you. Right? If you don't do well in this course, it's because of you. Not because of me, not because of the people around you, it's because of you. It's all what you do and what you want to put into it. Seriously. All right? That's number one. Other pieces that I'm going to talk about after today are, once you form up, always keep a good team together. Right? It is a rule in business. So that's why I'm asking you to form up today, right? And hopefully you can make a relationship that can last for the entire 3 years here at George Brown. That's not hoping. Okay, I've talked enough. I'm going to take a short break now. We're sitting at 3 o'clock. I've talked for about an hour. We're going to take a 5-minute break. I'm going to stop recording. We're going to go offline. And when we come back, I'm going to form you into teams. Let's take 10 minutes. We're going to come back at 3:15 exactly. Go. Okay?